Welcome back. Well, we're going to do something different today. This is my Kia Optima steering wheel, as you can see. I love this car. It's a beautiful mileage. I get over 31, 32 miles to the gallon on the highway. Tremendous handling car, good power, and very comfortable. A lot of features. This is an older 2013 model, but runs like a champ. About 94,000 miles on it right now. So, but it still drives like new. But I've got this little issue. If you look right here, I've got this 3-button module is collapsed inside of the steering wheel. I presume that there's probably a screw that's reversed. In other words, screwed, I would presume, toward me into this section of the steering wheel. So what I'm going to endeavor to do, I know that if I brought this to a mechanic, that it's probably going to be big bucks to take apart this steering wheel and to repair it. So I'm going to endeavor to make the repair myself, using a little bit of common sense. The very first thing I need to do is remove the, after doing some investigation, and I have to really piece together a lot of information that I find online, because there really isn't anything. There's a lot of stuff about airbags and steering wheels, but very, very little useful information about the Optima. But the one thing that is common to all of them is the airbag must be removed first. This entire module has to come out, and that will expose all the internals of the steering wheel and presumably, allow me to remove this part of the, I just looking at it, I would say that this is probably a shell that fits down on top of the steering wheel. So the very first thing we have to do is to cut power off to the car and leave it off for at least 5 minutes to allow all residual electricity to basically recede from the car, because there is a possibility these airbags definitely can blow if you start manipulating the electronics on them before you disconnect the power and let the electricity subside from the system. So we'll do that, and we'll return. So disconnecting the negative terminal first from the negative post with 10 millimeter wrenches, and removing the positive, I will now let the car just sit here for about 5 or 10 minutes and let all electrical stuff discharge from the system. Okay, now on each side of the steering wheel, you'll notice that there's a small hole, very, very small hole. There's one on the 3 o'clock position of the wheel, one at 9 o'clock, and there's one at 6 o'clock, located in the same place. Now, you have to reach inside with a thin probe. I made myself basically a small screwdriver with just a piece of drill rod, and using that, I really didn't know whether I needed to use a screwdriver or just a blunt tip. Turned out all I needed was a blunt tip, but this worked just as well. Blunt tip would have probably hit it a little better. And I'll show you what you have when you get done. I'll release the bottom one if I can here. Basically, it's just a matter of hitting a small detent, and it will release the, there's a spring. There we go. I'll show you what that looks like quickly now. You remove the hub. Now remember, this has got to be, the power has got to be disconnected. Right here, you can see there's a small detent button underneath this spring. So what I was doing was depressing that detent, and that allows the shaft to come out of these sockets. There are 3 of those sockets. So that's the great mystery. Now there are different ways of doing this in the industry, but with the Kia Optima, in fact, even amongst the various even amongst the various Kias, they have different systems. It looks like this one has a little dimpled pin. I'm sure that the factory uses a special shaft that easily locates that and pops it right out. But that's all you need to do, is to remove that. Now with the power disconnected, we disconnect these right here, and you have to lift these orange tabs up. I'm going to do that off camera so that I can get my hands on the thing. Okay, I simply got a thin blade underneath these orange tabs to lift those off. Now each of these color-coded plugs should just pop right out, just like that. There we go. The entire airbag assembly is disconnected mechanically and electrically, and they're color-coded, so they'll go right back where they're supposed to. We just have to remove this. We just have to disconnect this wire from the clip here, the connector clip. We'll do that off camera. And finally, that final connection right there is looks like a white clip to a ground. So we'll disconnect that now. So there's a close look at the underside of the airbag system. We'll put that aside and then take a look and see what we have inside the steering wheel. So there's my problem right there. I've got this 3-button module has come loose. It's attached at the back. Let me get these wires out of the way here. It's attached at the back. I might have to get the camera around there just to see if I can take a look at it from inside. Nice thing you can do. I can take a look at this, play it back and see what I have in there. Maybe it gives me a clue. And I'll be right back with you after I review this film and see what we have. Well, it looks like I've got a problem that I cannot resolve today. These plastic posts, see if my camera will focus here. These plastic posts have apparently broken off from inside this shroud. I've got 2 broken posts with the screws still in them. I could order a new part, but I've got DevCon industrial grade epoxy putty that I use for glass bedding. I'll mix up a very small amount of that to apply to those posts and just reposition it. I need a very, very little of this epoxy, but it has to be mixed by volume or by weight. Now I choose to mix it by volume most of the time. It's a lot handier. So it's a 2.5 to 1 ratio. So basically I use 2 and 1 of these of the epoxy putty to 1 of these for the hardener, and mix it up very thoroughly with my palette knife. And I'll use that same palette knife to apply it to the posts, and we'll go out to the car and see if we can get this done. I'm just going to gently apply, very carefully apply a daub of epoxy to the top of that post right there as you see it, and fix that into position and let it dry for at least 7 or 8 hours, and then I'll be able to at least put the steering wheel together. It should harden completely in 24 hours and be ready to use tomorrow. I've got the epoxy applied now, and I'll just hold it for a second, make sure I position it good and firmly. Can't use too much in there because it could interfere with those buttons and forever mess up the system. So that should. It's not a heavy module. I think if I just simply let it go for now until I can find a wedge to put in behind it. Well, that was simple enough. I just took a 9/16 socket and wedged it down in there between the plug, and that should hold that module. Actually, that module really wants to stay there. It's not being resistant. Boy, that stuff is hard. Now it's been about 18 hours since that epoxy was made up, and as you can see, I mean that stuff is harder than the original material. Make sure the battery terminals are disconnected. Otherwise, this thing can blow, and they can kill you. Okay, we'll remove our shim here. Simple as that. And feels good. No interference with the buttons. I think we're golden. Okay, I just need to reattach my white plug to the ground post, and the two color-coded terminals secure these yellow wires inside their securement fixture, and snap it into place. Alright, you can see the three terminals are reconnected, the ground post and the two primary plugs, and also these orange clamps are pressed back into place. I've got the cables secured underneath the clamp. All we need to do is pop it into place. It's in. Good and secure. Let's give it a go. See if we can
security at the
try the
concert
phone.
and may result in loss to CS.
Please say a command.
Call home at home.
On behalf of MGM, they're trying to hide behind.
Well, looks like everything's running perfectly. That's how you remove the airbag on a Kia Optima. This is a 2013 model. Now, I don't know what revisions they've made in other years, but it was a pretty simple fix. If I had to calculate the number of minutes I actually put into it, besides the think factor, I probably, I don't think I expended more than 15 minutes on this repair total. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and watch all my gun videos. God bless.